Okay, welcome to another episode of Blur and Grain. I have my beautiful friend here, Esmeralda. How are you feeling?
Just a little nervous, but excited.
She's nervous, but this is good. This is fine. We're at my home. I mean, if you're watching this on video, you can see that we're at my home. Just my actual literal couch and my blanket, and my legs are crisscrossed, and I'm not even wearing shoes. So we're super comfy, but I want to intro Esmeralda over here. She is a queen in all the ways you can express that. So she works as an influencer marketing director at a very big like PR slash marketing slash creative agency,
Right.
because you guys do all of those things here in Houston. She's also an influencer herself, and she's been in the industry for how many years actually?
Oh, great question. I've been in the industry, in the marketing industry since, gosh, like 2018.
Whoa, whoa,
Not,
whoa.
yeah, not
That's a
considering,
while.
yeah,
Yeah.
internships and whatnot.
All of the things. So today we're going to talk about all things influencer marketing, marketing world agency things, and we have a really fun little episode planned with all of the behind the scenes details about what that looks like. So I'm excited that you're
Yay.
here and that we can
Excited.
chit chat in my living
Yay.
room.
I'm excited. I'm
This
excited.
looks like maybe I'll do a clip and post or something about how I rearranged my living room. I'm like, it feels chill, but it's also not because there's so many lights and stuff. But okay, tell us a little bit about yourself first. Like, I want to hear some personal life. Like, are you married? Do you have
Yes.
like dogs? Like, I want to know all about it, and then also tell me how you got started as an influencer and working in the industry.
Okay, my name is Esmeralda. As Sarah just said, I am 32 years old, and yes, I am married. My husband Henry and I just celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary, which was so
Whoa.
exciting. We just celebrated last week, and I have 3 dogs, which I know sounds crazy, but they are my everything, literally my fur babies. And yeah, we live in the city. My husband and I are just living our best life, and yeah, can't complain.
Beautiful. So as do I. Me and my husband. We have a dog,
Yep.
no kids yet, so we're out here thriving and living. How did you get started? Okay, so this goes both ways because you are an influencer, but then you also have a full-time job as an influencer marketing director. So tell me how you got started, you being an influencer, just like personal, but then also in the influencer marketing industry.
Okay. Starting as an influencer, it kind of happened organically. Everyone's obviously on Instagram, and this is when blogs are like really popular.
Yeah.
RIP, because they're not as much
Shout out to
anymore.
blogs.
I still have my website up, guys, so go check it out.
You renew the domain every
Yeah,
year.
literally, and I haven't posted in years, but it's still there. You
Yeah.
just never know. It
For
might
the
come back.
memories, for the
Yeah,
memories.
that's exactly right. But yeah, I was just posting on Instagram, and I was like really into fashion. Now, take that with a grain of salt, guys. I'm not like a fashionista. I just, I enjoyed buying new outfits. I was definitely shopping a lot more than I do now. And so, yeah, I would post my outfits a lot. And yeah, organically, girls would write to me and ask me to share links with them and where am I shopping at. And so I was like, hey, I feel like I can do something with this. By this point, there's a lot of influencers around and definitely a lot of blogs. And so I made it a goal to start my blog before a year ended. I think this was like in 2016. And it's
9 years ago.
yeah,
approx.
9 years ago. It is December of 2016, and I had told myself I need to get this done before the year ends. And of course, I waited until the very last minute. And so, December 31st, literally New Year's Eve, I launched my blog, which is hilarious because that is the procrastinator in me. And yeah, I basically started a blog and I would write, and then that got me some opportunities to write for like weddings in Houston, write for Francesca, some other, brands. And yeah, I've kind of just been doing it since then. There's been some times where I'm not as consistent. And that
Felt.
definitely, yeah, that happened once I got into this role right now. So I went to school for international business. I minored in marketing. And when I was still in college, I interned somewhere and I was on the marketing team, and I was doing marketing for like a shopping center center here in Houston.
Yeah.
And they wanted to work with influencers. So that was like really my first opportunity to learn like how much should we pay influencers?
Yeah.
You know, what is it that the brand is looking for? What is it that we should be asking influencers for? So yeah, I did that as an intern, and then I graduated college and I started working for another company, also working with influencers. I was more on the tourism PR side.
Yeah.
And then I got the opportunity to work for the PR agency I'm at now.
Wow.
And yeah, I started off as a social media manager, got moved to the PR team, and then they actually asked me to start a new department, which was influencer marketing. And yeah, 4 years later, now I'm running the department and it's going great and I love it.
Wow,
Yeah.
what a story. That's crazy starting so, but it all connects, like
Yeah.
social and all of that, and then now like being able to start the department from scratch, which is like really cool and interesting, which is why I was like, okay, I feel like you have so much like behind the scenes knowledge of what it is. And I know that everybody, like I'm personally always super curious, like what does this actually look like? So that's so fun to hear, kind of like that behind the scenes stories. Can you tell us the original name of your blog?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Guys, I don't know where this thing came from. You know, back then, the thing was to be like catchy and to like have two words and maybe the word and in between.
And it wasn't your name. Back
No.
then it was like anything but your name.
But your name.
Yeah.
Major regret now, major regret now. And so I was like on a time crunch. I'm like, okay, I need to launch this blog ASAP. What makes sense? I'm asking my cousins, I'm asking my family, asking friends, and it's so silly, but the name was Dessert for Brunch, and that's the name.
At Dessert for Brunch.
Yep.
It's okay because I totally get it, because what year was that? 2019? No,
2016.
2016. I got married that year. And then I started a food blog, and it was like, what was it? Do you remember?
I didn't know this.
It was like a flavorful, like.
I did not know this.
It was
I think
like,
it's time to bring it back.
It's flavorfullife.com or something. Like, it was literally like so flavorful. Like, it had the word flavor in it because that was the thing. Like, no one had a blog or anything that was just like your name or anything. Like, now that's like more normal.
Yeah.
But it was definitely like, you try to like come up with a word or two. Also, there was no ChatGPT, so you could get zero support.
I know.
It was literally like you and your brain just trying to think of like a name that could work because everybody's doing like a name.
Yeah.
But that's funny. Dessert for Brunch and It's a Flavorful Life or something.
Yeah,
I think which was my food blog name.
I think it's time to bring it back, and I can send you some collabs. You know,
I
try
have
some
an Instagram account for my cooking. I honestly lost the password, but it was called That Health Grind.
Get it?
Interesting. I did that in 2020. We all had a 2020
We all have.
project.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, but anyways, walk us through. Here's what I want to know. Walk us through the behind the scenes of working with an influencer. Like, how does it start? Like, I'm curious about that. It's like, do they reach out and send an email? Do you guys like vet them and send an email? What does that look like when you're asking? Like, how does those conversations go? Do you send like a proposal? Like, how do you determine the rate? Like, the deliverables? Like, kind of what does that process look like for some of us who like are just curious and have like literally no idea how that works?
Yeah. Well, on the professional side, as in like being an influencer marketing director, it can happen both ways. Sometimes influencers will reach out to us. For the most part, I will say it's us reaching out to them, just because the agency I work for, we represent so many clients. And so a lot of these clients already kind of know, hey, we're in scope for X amount of influencers a month. And so once me and the client come to like a decision as to what the offer should be, what the deliverables are, do we have budget to pay an influencer? Is this a trade collaboration? What is the demographic that we're looking for? You know, all of those details. That's whenever I will start like making a list of influencers that I think would be great for this specific collaboration or campaign, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And yeah, usually I'll reach out to them and I'll say, hi, you know, I represent XYZ client. We have this collaboration that we would love to offer you. Below, I've listed the offer and deliverables. Let us know if you're interested. As always, we can negotiate if needed. So yeah, that's really how it goes. But with that said, I think so many definitely Houston influencers know about the agency that I work for,
Yeah.
they will reach out to us and they'll say, hey, we saw that you got this new client. We saw it on social media.
Okay.
Is there an opportunity to collaborate? And that's whenever we go into like, did they pitch themselves? Do we feel like they're a good fit for the client? What does their reach look like? How consistent are they? So there's a lot of questions we definitely ask ourselves before we actually move forward with an influencer.
Oh, that's so interesting. So when you're sending that email, you break down what you want from them and the dates and the pay already?
Yeah.
Like it's all in one and done type
That's
of
right.
thing.
Yeah, I think it's easy for me at least. And then on the influencer side, me being an influencer, I've been reached out to from brands where they'll kind of just say, this is what the collaboration is. They won't talk about pay yet. They won't put like the exact details of what the offer and deliverables are. And then it's a lot of back and forth. For me, I just like to just put it in that first email because then, the influencer knows what to expect.
If they reply, it's kind of like because they're interested.
They're interested, exactly.
Do you send like a document, like a proposal or something, or it's all just like the words and I asked because I have 3,000 followers or 2,000, I forgot, somewhere in the 2 and the 3. It's not a lot at all. And this furniture company reached out to me and they DM'd me and they were like, can we have your email? So then they send me an email and they made a PDF, right? And they put pictures from my feed in their like PDF. And I was like, whoa, is this what's happening out there? And I'm like, that's so interesting. I guess maybe to see that like my type of content could work. I feel horrible because I never responded because I'm like, well, because they wanted to like give me free furniture in exchange. And like, I just don't need furniture right now. I'm in a fully furnished apartment and I never responded. Hopefully they're not listening, which I really doubt that they will. But I was like, okay, is that the norm? Like, or was that maybe they were like going like trying to like go above and beyond or something? I do think that like, it's kind of like when you open up the document and it's like the very last page, you finally get what you're supposed to be doing and what the compensation is. It's like, you may lose me there. So I think like kind of just sending everything one and done is kind of like, it's kind of just to the point.
Yeah, I love it that way. And it's a little different for the industry I'm in because the agency that I work for, a lot of our clients are in the hospitality industry. So it's a lot of hotels and restaurants. So typically these offers are like, the influencer kind of knows what to expect. It's usually a free meal, an overnight stay. Now, with that said, we also have some clients where they have products. So we're asking an influencer, can we send you a PR package? It really goes either way. But to go back to your furniture story, do you have your email listed in your...
No, I don't.
No? Okay, so that's probably why they DM'd you.
Oh, really? Should I have my email just in case?
Oh my gosh.
Take notes, everybody.
No, that is my number one advice. If I am looking for an influencer and I go to their Instagram
and I can't email them?
If I don't see the email in their bio, forget it. I'm moving on to the next. Everyone right now
Hold on. Let me go to my email.
Yeah.
Oh, it is there.
Okay, good.
So why did they DM me?
I will also say that sometimes you'll have your email listed in the email tab. I tell everyone, put it in your bio because sometimes as an influencer marketing director, I'm looking up influencers on Instagram, so you can't see that little tab unless you're on the phone. And sometimes it's just more work for me. I don't have the time to pull my phone out.
Oh, because you're like on your laptop.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and you don't see the email button there. So if it's not in your bio, a lot of people will move on.
Everybody.
That's right.
Eunice. She's editing her bio.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Duh.
Oh
okay, wait. That's a fun tip. That's a fun tip that
for your
I'm
location too. If you can put like HTX or Houston or just Texas, I don't know, something. I think that goes a long way as well. Because if there's a brand that's national, they don't really care where you live. But if it's someone specific to the city that you live in, why not? Just put it in your bio.
That's true. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's good to know. I'm going to make some edits to my bio now. Yes. I was going to ask, okay, so you send everything and then the influencer like responds. Is it typical to like get on a call or something, or it's just like they know what to do because they're like professionals at that point? Have you ever had a point where someone agrees to do something and they don't?
Yeah. No, we've definitely had that issue. So it's funny because everyone at my company knows that I have this, and it's common. It's just funny to say out loud, but I do have a do not work with list that unfortunately have to
Ooh.
update
We're
on
entering
the
the
regular.
tea time. No, I'm kidding. Not yet, but
Yeah,
almost.
yeah. I mean, if an
Oh.
influencer, like if they promise to deliver something and they don't end up delivering, we will try to reach out to them. And I'm super reasonable if you're sick or, something's going on in your
Yeah,
life. Like, I
yeah.
totally get it.
Yeah.
I think that's where we go to, like, let's just have open communication and
Yeah.
just make sure that as an influencer, you're communicating that with the person that, just gave you the collaboration.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get ghosted from influencers and they just don't respond. And so,
After they've agreed.
Yeah, after they've
Oh,
agreed, or even
Lord.
after they've gotten the offer, they'll go and get a free meal or a free overnight
And then they
stay.
won't give the deliverables.
They just won't post. Yeah. And then they ghost,
OMG.
but you see them still posting, obviously. And so,
Oh, that's not cute.
Yeah, not my recommendation.
So then you add them to your
That's right.
do not,
Yeah.
what is it?
Yeah, do not work with list.
Do not work with list.
And I put in the notes, the date, what exactly they did.
Oh,
and
I
when they
love
did
that.
it. Yep.
Receipts.
Mhm,
She's
mhm.
got her receipts.
That's right.
And
That's
they won't
right.
be hearing from you
No,
anymore.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Remove from list. Oh my gosh, that's actually so smart because then you don't want it to happen again.
Exactly.
Or if like somebody, let's say you're out or something like that and someone is covering for you, then they already know like maybe let's not reach out to that person even if they look like the great candidate for that industry or something.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it's a business and it ruins our relationship with the client. And so when we're promising a client, hey, this influencer is going to deliver XYZ, and then they don't deliver it, it's like, how do you go back to the client and explain that? They are putting so much trust in us, making sure that we have these relationships. So yeah, I think some influencers definitely forget that part and they're just like, I just didn't feel like, whatever the reason may be, I didn't feel like posting about it.
But it's still like professional and a business and all that.
That's right. Yeah.
Totally. How does do influencers like send invoices or something or like like the professional ones, or do you have some that like, how does that work? So let's say they do the work and they actually do it and whatever, do they then give that content back to you? Or do they give it straight to the other company, or how does that work?
So once,
I mean the client, not other company.
Usually if an influencer, has done everything that they were supposed to do, we then will ask them for a W-9 and an invoice, and we'll tell them who to address it to. Once we get those documents from them, we'll then send it to the client. There's been times where our agency will pay the influencer and then the client pays us back.
Totally.
Yeah, but for the most part, the client will be paying the influencer, and we're the middleman between the influencer and the client. We want to make sure that they are never in communication with each other. We've had issues in the past where more tea time. Of
course.
But
I love it.
We've had issues in the past where we somehow, some way, an influencer gets like the contact information for our client, and then they're reaching out to them behind our back saying like, can you do this? Can we change this? Or a month has passed. Can we get another collaboration? Again, it goes back to looking unprofessional because we are the middleman. So we go out of our way to make sure that like a client and influencer are never really speaking to one another. So we have to communicate with the client and ask them, hey, please let us know once this influencer has been paid. We let the influencer know. And then in terms of like their content, we will typically ask them like, we'll put it in the deliverables, like we want rights to your content. Now with that said, it's usually just to repurpose on social media, not for like websites or ads or anything like that. Because in that case, most influencers will charge and they'll say, if you want to use my content on your website or in an ad, we'll only give you the usage rights for a year. And then they kind of charge for those things. So typically we just ask for their content to repurpose on social media.
Is there any type of like legal agreement or something that you do? Is it standard with every single influencer?
It depends on what the offer is. If we're just giving them like a meal to a restaurant, probably no contract is going to be written up. But yeah, there's some of our clients where we do have to create a contract, and we have a really big hotel chain that is a client of ours, and at one point they had a 7-page contract, which was crazy. I get it. Legally they want to make sure that they're safe.
Protected.
Yeah, they're protected. But we did have to have a talk with them and tell them like, okay, we're going to have to, re-strategize this contract. But yeah, I mean, I've made contracts for some of our clients. So shout out to ChatGPT, because now that we have that, I'm grateful. I will say
I can't imagine a life without my best friend, Chat.
I call it my Lord and Savior.
Literally, like, I'm literally like driving and I have a thought and I just ask.
No, it's crazy.
Like, or when we were in Europe and we were in the train, or whatever, the one that goes
Yeah.
underground between London and Paris. I was so freaked out because I'm like, how am I underwater right now? Like
I
the way
know.
that I was like, and so then I just asked him, I'm like, how am I underwater right now?
Explain
And they
it.
explained and they sent me pictures of how safe it is and whatever.
love
And I
that.
was just like, what would I do without you? Because
The-
Google was not coming in
No,
clutch that much.
no, no.
Anyway, shout out to ChatGPT
Shout
that
out
will
to
one
them.
day hopefully sponsor one of my episodes. I don't even know how that works. I
That's
don't know
dope.
if there's real people behind any
You
of
should
that.
just ask them.
But
Just ask them yourself.
sponsor me, my besties.
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm like, that's so interesting to hear. Like, that's how it really works. I feel like sometimes we think that things work a certain way and they don't work that way at all.
Right.
So it's kind of like that's such like a simple way. Like it's literally just an email and just like conversation, and then you kind of get the work done. Like it's like not as maybe like I know obviously we see like influencers on TikTok sharing their crazy stories, and it may seem like it's like something so different out there, but it's literally just like an email.
That's right. Literally.
Which is like so interesting to hear. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about like a little bit of like tips and tricks or like advice that you would give to people that want to get started, like as influencers or like creating things, or maybe this year want to like do that to the side or like little by little or want to grow. What advice would you give to creators who want to work with brands but don't have a huge following yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's perfectly fine. And I think you'll hear this even from the brands themselves. If you are really showing a brand that you're a true fan of theirs, I think say it. Even if it's through a DM, I always tell influencers, if you can't find the email to a specific brand that you want to work with, send them a DM and say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I focus on my social media. I would love to work with you guys. I've been a big fan since XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Is there an opportunity for a collaboration? And could you put me in touch with your, influencer marketing manager?
Yeah.
But in terms of, some advice, I just go for it. I mean, the worst they're going to
Like
say is
pitching
no.
yourself,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, pitch yourself. Again, we're going back to ChatGPT, like it's so great that we have that tool now.
Yeah.
Like there's no harm in asking them
Yeah.
for, some advice as well. But yeah, I mean, what I like whenever I see influencers pitching themselves to me is, they'll really tell me who they are, why they want to work with the brand, what they can do for the brand, and then they'll even list some examples of like some similar content that would make sense. And I think that just goes a long way, just showing that you're like interested, you've put in the work, you've done a little bit of research. So really, it's simple things. I think I don't
that
think
make you stand out.
Yeah, you don't need
even
to
if
have,
you don't have a large following. Do you feel like if they reach out and it feels genuine and you could tell they're putting in the work and like you hit their feed and it makes sense, obviously they don't have a lot of followers, but you can just tell that like they have a good style and everything, you would consider
Absolutely.
giving them the opportunity just because first they tried and it felt genuine.
Right.
Okay, that's good to know because I know that everybody wants to start, and I feel like maybe some people are waiting to be reached out to, but I don't think they know. Like, I mean, I'm sure people know, but it's like you can also just like pitch yourself.
That's right.
A couple of times.
And I recommend it. I mean, there's so many influencers nowadays. It's so incredibly tough for someone in my position as an influencer marketing to know everyone that's out there. I mean, unless you're like chronically online, which even then it's just so hard.
Yeah.
So most brands don't know who this influencer is. So like, why not just pitch yourself? Why not just reach out to them and ask them? Again, the worst they can do is either not respond or say, this is not the time. But yeah, I love smaller influencers. Usually the smaller influencers, they just have like a different passion. Like they want it so bad. They're willing to do so much. So I never look at the follower account, especially nowadays with video content. You can have 1,000 followers and you can get 1 million views on a video. So everyone needs to remember that. Yeah.
Speaking actually of like pitching yourself and all of that, what is a common mistake creators make when they are pitching themselves, or something that would like maybe turn you off from or make you realize that like they won't be professional or something like that? Do you see like a common mistake?
Yeah, there's many, but my like biggest pet peeve is when an influencer says, hi, I'm Sarah and I would love to work with you.
That's it.
Like, okay, Sarah, what's your handle? Like, like give me a link to your Instagram.
Really, like
to your
just is that like just like an email?
Yeah, literally just an email like that. And
with nothing.
It blows my mind. I'm like, there's no way. Like, did you hit send too early? Like, I'm kind of waiting for the next email to come. No, we get that all the time, especially working for an agency. They'll say, hey, I think I would be a great fit for your brand. well, which brand? Because we have to
Yeah.
represent so many clients. Like, be specific. So
That
yeah,
is hilarious
it's
that they
crazy.
would just do that. How do they get your email?
It's on the website. Yeah, it's on the website.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I'm sure you don't have your work email on
No,
your.
God, no.
It's on the website, and so then they like do their work, and then they're like, "I'd love to work with you." Period.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
Oh
you've
my
already done the work
gosh.
finding the email. Like, let's put a little bit more
Yeah,
in your
yeah, yeah.
email.
Just
Yeah.
kind of like when it feels like very robotic
Right,
type.
right,
Like there's
right.
no personality
Right.
or anything. Just like
Yeah, and there's
that's so
some.
funny.
I feel like ChatGPT is the topic of this conversation, but
Good.
I can
So they
tell.
can sponsor me.
Let's
No, I'm
let's
kidding.
go, guys. No, I can tell when an influencer has like asked ChatGPT for help, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you forget to take out like the quotation marks at beginning and end, or like the little disclaimer at the end of like ChatGPT where it
You're
says
lying.
if you need more tips, like blah 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 blah, and they leave it in, and I'm like, guys.
No. Wait, that's actually my biggest fear. I I cannot let ChatGPT write my emails. Like I sometimes I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Or I pass it through ChatGPT as like, can you help this sound nicer?
Yes.
Because sometimes I feel like I could be maybe like too direct or
Right.
something like that. But I'm just like I can't like rely on it for certain things. So that's hilarious. And I'm paranoid that I will leave the little thing at the end where does that sound good? Would you like another option?
Yeah, yeah.
But some people have done that when they're
Oh,
reaching out.
so many times. I'm like, I just
no.
yeah. No,
oh my
it's
god, that's
funny.
hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Okay, yeah, that is crazy. I
know.
would think that people would put a little bit more thought into it, but I guess that
You'd be
happens all the
surprised.
time.
Yep.
If someone's trying to pitch themselves to you or to your company, I know you said earlier that I know we started with like, okay, if you're trying to start, pitch yourself, right? And then when they are pitching themselves, what makes them stand out? I know you said being personable and stuff like that, but let's say they crafted the great message, right? The first thing you're going to do is like hit their Instagram or hit their handles. Once you hit there, like, what are you looking for there? Let's say they don't have a huge following, right? But you like the message that they sent. Do you then hit their feed, and what do you look when you do hit like their socials?
I like to see that they are consistent, which I know that's tough to say, because that's something we
guys,
all
is everyone
struggle with.
taking notes?
I just want to make sure that the last time they posted wasn't last year or 6 months ago. If it was 3 weeks ago, I get it. Hey,
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to see that they're consistent. I want to see that they, feel authentic. How do their captions look? What type of content are they putting out there? Does it look like they really are putting in the work? I'm not saying your video or, a reel needs to be perfect, but also if maybe you're showing a room, let's not, go super slow. Like, little things like that. I'm like, let's,
Yeah. It has to look good.
It has to look good for sure. Yeah. I mean, really, I just like to see that influencers are consistent. I want to be able to tell from their feed that they are a genuine person. They aren't just, putting sponsored content out 24/7 because, they might be looking for a paycheck. So those are some things that I definitely look for.
Oh my gosh, that is so interesting. Okay, I think you have shared so many cool little nuggets. So I hope everyone's taking notes. I'm taking mental notes. I'm like, I don't know what type of I don't know, but I'm like, I would be down to do some stuff. If I needed furniture, I would have taken it. I just didn't need furniture.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, it doesn't hurt to like try to see
Not at
as
all.
like a little side gig or something. This actually segues me perfectly into tea time.
Yes.
Which I think in all of season 1, tea time doesn't have a cool little intro, but I do have a dream of it to have a cool little intro. But I know you told me a story. I don't know if you mind sharing, but I know you told me a story about an event earlier this year where you were the influencer and you were supposed to go and film your own content and you didn't get to do it. And so you had to use like generic B-roll.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, wait, I want to hear the story.
Okay. Yes, there is a collaboration that I had earlier this year where I was supposed to go to a certain place and film content.
Yes.
And it was to pre-promote something. And so I show up to the place that I was scheduled to go to. Mind you, it's on the calendar. I've communicated with the brand. And I get there and they're not ready to see me. So they asked me to wait, and it's been like 30 plus minutes and I'm kind of on a time crunch. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so finally I say like, hey, I'm actually going to have to leave soon. I think I might just have to reschedule this. And so I'm emailing the client, also letting the people know they're in person. And over email, the client is like, no, like we will get this sorted out. I'm having them go meet you right now. And so, so it was just, I guess, the people I'm speaking to over email, I think they were doing their job.
They had their stuff situated.
Yeah. And they can't control the people that I'm actually meeting with in person. And so I basically don't get the content that I'm supposed to get. And so I said, hey, I didn't get any content. They understood. I showed them the little pieces of content that I did get, and it was just not going to work out. And so I was actually willing to like step away from it. But they said, no, we'll actually send you some B-roll. I'm like, great, awesome, let's do it. And so they send it. And I'm looking and I'm like, okay, surely something's wrong with my phone because it is the blurriest video I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm like, something's going on here. And so I tell them, hey, the video is also an hour long, mind you.
They just send you like the whole video.
Yeah, they sure did. And so I send them a screenshot of what it looks like for me. And they said, oh my gosh, no, like we'll resend it to you. They resend it to me. The quality is better. But the B-roll is literally a corner camera just recording
recording just whatever's happening.
Yeah. And I'm like, what am I gonna do with this?
Oh my God. And that's all you had to work with.
That's all I had to work with. And I just didn't, because I'm on the other side at times where I'm, an influencer marketing director, I'm like, gosh, I don't want to pull out so last minute, but also like, I felt so bad because this just isn't the type of content I post on my feed. And so I make some edits and I even said, I will actually go back to the place that I originally went to and I'll go record content. They say, no, you actually need to have this content up pretty soon.
Yeah.
And we don't have time to reschedule you. Like, you're just going to have to make this work. I'm like,
got it.
Let me see what I can do.
Starts cutting the clips
an hour,
from the 1 hour.
An hour. Probably even longer. And I'm like, wow. And mind you, the video they sent me is
laughing.
Like horizontal and I need to make it like, so I'm like, great. I love this.
No.
So yeah, I mean, I did end up editing it and I put a little voiceover over it, which the voiceover helped a little. I put some captions on it, but the content was just not giving. But hey, the voiceover was there and I tried to make it as short as possible, was still getting the message across. So
that sounds chaotic, obviously. Yes. And you didn't get to use your own footage. You had to use like this blurry video and then just make it work and just try to figure out how to do legitimate video editing. Like not from like what you capture.
Yeah.
How long was the final video?
I think like 30 seconds.
30 seconds. And you just, I mean, it looked questionable. I'm not gonna lie. We knew this.
Hey, we knew this. Yeah.
It looked questionable, but you got it done. Mm-hmm. Wow. Crazy. Like this is your sign to start the side gig of influencer. Eunice is like, yeah. Because I feel like, and that's like kind of like the normal type of range type for someone that is experienced. Mm-hmm. How many followers do you have actually?
Not many, honestly. I think I have like 25,000.
Yeah, I mean that's a good amount for like a local type of thing. Right. And I feel like that's kind of where the industry's headed in a way where it's like, it's valuable to them that a local influencer would promote their event. So they're like, even if you can't get your own footage and make it to your own style, like this is how much that's worth, which I feel like that is so interesting. And I'm like, okay, gotta get my game out there.
I encourage everyone. I'm like, be an influencer. If it's something that like interests you, why not go for it?
Yeah.
Like, and if you're having fun doing it, why not? I tell everyone all the time, I'm like, just go for it. You never know what could come from it.
What is the most that you have seen an influencer get paid for a campaign or collaboration?
I mean, I've seen some crazy numbers and I've been quoted some crazy numbers. I personally have not paid someone this much, but I've seen people get paid like $45,000 a post. I've been quoted
for a singular post.
Yes, which is crazy.
Like a video, or it just even photos?
Actually, this one I saw it on TikTok. It was like kind of viral, and it's like one of my favorite influencers. She doesn't live here in Houston, but her numbers got leaked by accident, and it was $45,000 for, I believe, 3 stories and 2 reels, which is good. Well, at her size, it's definitely good.
Yeah.
I recently was quoted from an influencer's management team for a brand that we work with. They quoted us $30,000 per post, which is crazy.
Wow.
But the most that I paid an influencer through my job, it's like around like $7,000 to $10,000. Yeah, but
That's
it's usually
still
a
pretty
campaign.
good.
Yeah. It's
And
usually
it's a campaign, so it's more than just one post.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, that's still pretty
It
good
is,
for
yeah.
someone, you know, even if it's and a campaign. How many posts does that look like?
It
usually?
depends, but I think for this one, it was maybe like 2 feed posts, a TikTok, an Instagram takeover on the brand's account, as well as stories.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because you know the takeover. I know that that's like a
Yeah.
lot of work and
Right,
stuff like
right.
that. That is so interesting to see like the real numbers.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the realistic numbers too, because I know that on TikTok and all the big influencers, they're like, oh, I'm doing these brand trips and I got paid. Like we see the articles of like a
Right.
singular post by one of the Kardashians is like hundreds of thousands or millions or whatever, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, okay, the day-to-day influencers,
Right.
what are the actual numbers that they're making? And it's like that's more of like a realistic
Right.
type of like it's good. It's still a good paying job, 100%. But it's also not like, okay, not every influencer out there is getting like
Right.
$100,000
Yeah,
per post, you
yeah,
know? So I
yeah.
feel like that's what makes it interesting, kind of knowing how much that actually is. Have you ever had an influencer like get upset at you or like demand something? When like you explain, like you are the middleman,
Right.
right? So like you are representing the company or like the brand or something. So you do have a lot of like decision making and like building the campaign and all that stuff. But at the end, like you're not necessarily the final say. Like you don't control the budget or what the client actually wants. So I'm sure sometimes there has been instances where like the influencer is upset at you, but
yeah.
in reality, it's like, well, you're vouching for what the client wants.
Right.
Like, do you have like any stories of like someone getting like upset at you or something, and how did you kind of manage that?
Yeah, actually, just last year, there was an influencer that reached out to us because they wanted to work with a hotel client of ours. And so I loved this person's content. I thought they had a good following, good engagement. And so I took it upon myself to pitch this influencer to our client, which I think we also have to remember that I work for the client. I don't work for the influencer.
Yeah.
An influencer really needs to pitch themselves or hire an agency to pitch themselves.
Yeah.
We're not an influencer marketing agency. We
Yeah.
are a PR agency that happens to have a department of influencer marketing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think a lot of influencers get the two confused.
Yeah.
And so I pitched this influencer to our client, and I was able to convince them to give this influencer a collaboration. And so we gave this person a great collaboration, and they still were not satisfied or happy. They basically wanted more nights at the hotel. And we were explaining to this person, hey, we really can only do this many nights, but we were going to let you do a giveaway. So if you want to just scratch the giveaway idea, we'll let you have that extra night. The person says, no, my content doesn't perform well unless I do a giveaway, which that's kind of a red flag as well. We get it. You're going to get more comments and likes anytime you host a giveaway.
Yeah,
but
totally.
if you're coming to us and asking for so much, don't say those types of things because it's not really making you look
100%.
great. And so we basically said, hey, like we're not able to do this. Like if you want to keep the giveaway, then we're going to keep you. Again, I think it was still a 2-night stay. I think they wanted like 4 or 5 nights. Who knows?
Oh, they wanted a vacation.
Yeah, they wanted a longer stay. And so, we basically said, like, it's out of our control. Like, the client is, like, very firm on this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And this
person.
influencer just,
This person.
And this influencer just goes crazy. They send us the longest email saying, this is so unprofessional. I cannot believe that you are not giving me this collaboration. We've been talking about this for 3 weeks now. As an agency, I would expect blah, 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 blah. I mean, this person just went crazy on us. I couldn't believe it.
OMG.
I've worked with this person for years. I couldn't believe it. I also couldn't believe that this person was saying, like, I expect you to do blah, 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 blah. Like, no, you shouldn't expect, especially when you're coming to us
like
asking
you don't
for
work.
something.
You're like, I don't work for you. I work for the client.
So I had to be like very firm in my response and say, like, it's disappointing that they spoke to us this way. And that, at the end of the day, we ended up pitching this person to our client and got them a collaboration. We were willing to negotiate and give them an extra night stay if they didn't want to do the giveaway. So we gave them options. And so I had to be very firm. And basically they didn't respond. They never responded.
Wait, so they didn't do the collab?
No. Yeah.
Oh
by
my
that
gosh.
point,
And it was originally 1 night and you got them up to 2.
Yeah, it was, Typically, we will give influencers like a 1-night stay. We were able to give this person a 2-night stay. They wanted more than 2 nights. And so...
Yeah, I'm like, 2 nights is fine.
Plenty,
like,
yeah.
I would have taken it other than... And it was at a nice hotel.
A nice
and the
hotel
whole
that's
thing.
with F&B credit, that's with access to, the pool or whatever, a cabana,
the-
whatever it
yeah.
might be. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
and they
I
got mad
know.
at you,
I know.
and then
I'm
you
like,
had to. Oh, the perks.
I know.
I know it happens sometimes, like working with all sorts of people and different things. But that's interesting to
Yeah. Yeah.
hear the real behind the
I
scenes, the
know. I
tea.
know. I have stories for days.
Yeah, no, I know. And I
Hmm.
actually think you read me that email.
Yeah,
And I was
I
like,
did.
wow, that's a good
And we looked at the
response.
account together and we were
We
like, well,
did. And I was like, wow, this person, like, you would never think,
bold.
like, by looking at their
I know.
feed that they would just, like, be so demanding and, like, disappointed in you. It's like, what the heck are you talking
Right.
about?
Like,
Which is
hold
crazy.
on.
Okay. Also, to close and everything, I do want to shift, and I always like to close with some sort of like encouragement or something. I know we've talked a lot about and you've given so many like good nuggets to people that want to start like as an influencer and creating and stuff like that. But I want you to share actually to someone that does not want to become an influencer per se, but wants to, or is maybe interested in working in an agency, like a marketing agency, or starting a career in like marketing or influencer marketing or just like PR because you've been involved in that. What would you what would you say to someone that's currently maybe wanting to explore that? Because I do feel like marketing is a creative field of
Hmm.
sorts because there is so much variety. Like it's obviously business oriented, right? But it's a good field where you can kind of mix business and creativity and kind of see how they can like work together to like yield results and stuff like that. So I know that as we transform more into like the digital space, there's lots of people that are looking into marketing as like a viable career option. And obviously there's so many different ways that you can go about that. So what advice would you give to someone that's considering maybe making a career shift? I know someone, I have a friend, shout out Eliza if she's watching, or maybe she's probably not, doesn't know how to mention her name, but she was at one point more in the healthcare
Hmm.
side of life, and then, but she's so creative, and now she like freelances as a social media manager and like creative director and does all of these things and stuff like that. And so she often has shared about like that shift from literally healthcare to like marketing, but she found like her passion in it. And I know there's so many people that now, like I just shared with like the transition to like the digital world, kind of want to do that. So what advice would you give to someone that's maybe wanting to make the shift into like creating a career in like marketing, and what advice would you give them for like wanting to start, and what potential, connections they could make to kind of help themselves get there?
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to go to school for it, obviously that's already, the right step into going in that direction. I'm not one of those people where I'm like, I think you need to have a college degree to be able to get a certain job. So
Yeah.
I definitely, like, I don't think that way. But if you're able to go to school for it, obviously that's going to be super helpful. It's all about networking, honestly.
Yeah.
I think if there's an agency that you see, or someone that's in the field, reach out to them, offer to take them to coffee and say, I would love to learn more about you. This is what I'm interested in. Now, even if you're interested, definitely do the research and try to get your feet wet, say,
Yeah.
I know I've never worked in marketing or I've never worked for an agency, but, I have done XYZ. I've, reached out to a restaurant and I offered to do their social media. And so I have history there, or, my uncle was starting a business and so I made a marketing plan for them and these are some results, something, you definitely
Totally.
want to show the person that, hey, I've, done some research, even if I've never had a job in this industry,
Yeah.
at least that person has tried. So
Yeah.
I think network, reach out to anyone that you see, go on LinkedIn. LinkedIn really is such
Oh
a
my
helpful
gosh, I
tool.
love LinkedIn.
Love LinkedIn. Yeah.
Girly for
Reach
life.
out, offer them coffee, offer to learn more about them. And if you still feel like you're not getting anywhere, ask an agency. I would love to intern for you. I have X amount of
Nice.
hours, a week that I can give. If you're able to make a website, I think that shows a lot. Again, we all know blogs are not in anymore, but hey, you're
But
able to show.
portfolios,
That's right. Make
yeah.
a portfolio.
About me
Portfolio.
page.
Yes. Can I say the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Make a portfolio and make a page and just show people what you're capable of doing. And obviously, with that said, you can make it clear like there's definitely room to grow, but at least that person is trying. So yeah, I think reach out and offer
That's
yourself,
awesome.
offer to help.
That's awesome. I think one of the like recurring themes from just this conversation is just like the power of like putting yourself out there and like
Right.
pitching yourself. Like kind of that's what you have to do to get started. I know that doesn't work well with like all personality types because some people maybe may feel uncomfortable or don't feel like they have it in them to kind of
Right.
do that. But take this episode as like an encouragement, you know, to do that, to like pitch yourself. If you want to try something new, like just put yourself out there. If you want to get started as an influencer, like it doesn't hurt to start trying. If you want to transition to like the agency world, or like you want to do a career transition from like a totally different field into marketing, like just do your research. Reach out on LinkedIn too. Like,
That's right.
I mean, if as long as it's not a sales that you reach out, like I ignore half of my LinkedIn DMs because they're people trying to get me to pay for their services or whatever. But if it's not that, and if it's just like, hey, I want to get to know you, or I want to tap into this industry, like I feel like that is so valuable. So I feel like you shared a lot of great nuggets in regards to that, and I hope everybody that is interested in that took notes, because you said a lot of very valuable things. I love when we can have these conversations and kind of like, I have no idea if this is a word, demystify. I don't know. I feel like it's a word to me, but it basically means like take off the fluff of like thinking that something is maybe something so serious, when it's like, no, just let us send a message.
That's it.
Send a message. Or like it starts with an email, and it's like, and you kind of like, a lot of people maybe talk themselves out of doing something because they feel like it's like this big crazy thing, but it's like, no, like it doesn't hurt to just kind of try and get started. So yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited that we were able to have this little chat, and everything that you shared was so valuable. I can't wait for the clips that I'm gonna cut. I'm probably gonna cut them all and make it seem so crazy, and then see what happens.
I love it.
But thank you so much for coming on. I will at one point have a proper outro for this, but I will put it in the description of this episode and everywhere that I posted. Her beautiful Instagram handle that is not dessert for brunch anymore.
It definitely isn't. It sure isn't. It is now Ezzy Castro.
Yes, follow her on Instagram, and if you are interested in learning more, I'm sure you are open to receiving messages, either that or on LinkedIn, about any sorts of other questions that you may have regarding this industry, or like getting started as a whole. So follow Esmeralda on Instagram and LinkedIn, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Yay, bye.